Welcome to Born on the Bayou Sports, a Houston sports show made for Houstonians by Houstonians. Join Tim Costello and Scott Barzilla every week as they break down the latest in Houston Astros, Rockets, and Texans news. Tim's a former minor league broadcaster, and Scott has written 2 books on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, if Javier could get it figured out, it would make things a lot easier because he was that guy everybody was counting on this year to be a Cy Young candidate, take that big step forward and help anchor this rotation with Fromber.
Since he's come to Houston, you can look at the development of guys like Carlos Correa defensively, Jeremy Pena defensively. I mean, you can Alex Bregman's, certainly I think a better than average third baseman.
And now you're putting teams in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Now here comes Will Anderson. Pin back your ears, let's go. So if you're Bayou born and bred, or just like spending time in the H, sit down, relax, and stay Houston strong. Welcome all my friends to the podcast that once again got to watch a little live Astros baseball this weekend, Scott.
Absolutely. And, they finally notched their first win today, Tim.
That's
they had a tie. They had a
tie. Yeah. They came back, they're down early. Obviously not worried yet. The 2 losses, there wasn't a single starter in the lineup, I don't think. Jax Biggers is getting the most at bats of anyone so far. Who, fun note, I called his high school games in the Sugar Land area when I was broadcasting for a company out there. So fun to see Jax make his way to the Astros. But Scott, it's nice to be back in spring training and just almost to baseball season.
Absolutely, Tim. All right. I've got an opening question for you, and I know we're going to be talking about this guy later on, so I'm going to try and keep it focused here. We heard from your general manager and mine, Nick Casario, that they think that Joe Mixon had surgery this offseason. So what was the surgery for? Wrong answers only.
Botched adult circumcision.
Oh, but you had to throw in the botch there. That's the. I'm thinking he had a colonoscopy, but they also threw in an enema. And
it just never stopped all season. He just kept shitting and shitting and shitting and shitting and shitting, and next thing you know, it's week 18. And hey, what do you want me to do?
He's down to 161 pounds. We don't know what to do.
That's a good one. Anal fissure. He had to get surgery on an anal fissure. Is always top for Houston Texans. So how about just because it hurt so bad, Liz Frank?
Do you now? If you had the anal fissures, would you just go with the preparation H and kind of just go from there, or would you immediately jump to a surgical option?
Probably, but I wouldn't. I would hope that my employer wouldn't broadcast it to America that I was having a surgery for my butthole. But unfortunately for Kaz Matsui, that happened to him, and that was very much a real thing. And this is not the first time we've referenced anal fissures on this podcast. And
did he actually do surgery? I don't remember him actually doing surgery. I just remember him being out for a bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
Maybe he just threw on the preparation H, or threw on some icy hot.
I mean, I have to think that a true fissure is worse than a hemorrhoid. I don't think you can just preparation H your way through an anal fissure. Thank God. The answer to this question is I have to think, because I've never had anal fissures, Scott. But
our medical staff sounds like the comedian. There's this a black comedian who's talking about how his mother thought that icy hot solved everything. Gunshot wound, just throw some icy hot on there. Anal fissure, just kind of rubbed it in there. It'll be fine.
That is quite a thought. Thank you. Just rub it in there. Thank you, Scott. We have now spent the first 5 minutes of this podcast talk about, let me check your asshole, sir. I've got to check your
It's
asshole.
the TSA, Toilet
Oh my
Security
gosh.
Administration.
The bathroom is the last bastion of American freedom.
Oh man! All right, all right.
Speaking of American freedom, Scott, let's talk about America's pastime. The Astros, obviously, early camp, starting to see some early games. There's also been some video out of, call them one-on-one matchups, live BP matchups of our starting pitching against some of our top hitters. Do you have any early camp thoughts?
So a couple of I'm obviously more bullish on our pitchers at this point. I thought, Amaya has not pitched an official game, but hearing the comments from people like Jose Altuve and people like that who faced him in live BP is obviously, he talked about how he couldn't decipher his slider. Of course, raising some people to wonder, can Jose Altuve decipher his slider at this point in his career? But yeah, I think and Mike Burrows certainly looked good in his first outing. So if those are your number 2 and 3 guys in your rotation, Hunter Brown looked good today. So numbers 1, 2, and 3, if that's looking good, then you're probably in better shape than most of the AL West.
I would tend to agree with you there. From what I've seen in the social media live BP stuff too, Amai has looked good, and the Astros hitters have had really, really good things to say about him. I'm excited for his debut. He's got some wicked stuff, right? And if you look at Japanese pitchers, their first year here, they tend to have some success, especially with their breaking stuff, because a lot of times they have some sort of pitch that many Americans haven't seen before. And so I really am excited for that one. Obviously, Jason Alexander didn't look great. He got
No,
hit pretty hard. And again, I think you and I have both felt that was kind of his ceiling last year. Like, I think he pitched his ass off last year. I tip my cap to him, but I really don't think we can go into this season with him breaking camp as a rotational starter. In my opinion, that's not good baseball. And I will say too, I didn't have high hopes for Lance McCullers, but I had hopes. I had hopes that a full off season of being healthy, instead of rehabbing all this stuff, would allow him to maybe address some of his inefficiencies from last year and attack things. And I'm not saying he didn't, but I have really, Scott, I think it's gone, man. I think it's fucking gone, and I'm sad. It sucks. It's a career wasted by poor training staff and poor health management. But you look at some of those live BP at bats, man, his stuff looks like fucking shit.
well, he hasn't pitched in a live game yet, has he? I don't think.
No, but he had like live BP against like Correa and Altuve and stuff like that.
Because I want to say
And
he's going. I think Amaya's going tomorrow, and I think
he's throwing 89, man.
he might be throwing Friday. I think Roderick Munoz. It's a little too early to make any definitive statements, but he might be headed back to Cincinnati, fairly shortly. You mentioned Murray. I liked what he did coming up last season. I mean,
If you look at the numbers, he was less than a 2 ERA. It was like 1.54 across it was either 9 or 11 appearances. I can't remember. I think it
yeah,
was 11.
and of course you still have JP France.
Yeah. If JP France is in the bullpen
Well,
as a long man, I don't know. He doesn't throw hard enough to me to come out of the bullpen. Like, I'm sorry.
well, if you feel good, and this is what I'll say: if you got guys like, well, let's say Colton Gordon, um, George Costanza, and and then you got that guy that the Korean pitcher looked pretty good.
Tay.
In his first outing.
I think he's more of a bullpen arm, in my
If
opinion.
if you have guys, what I'm saying is though, if you have guys like that throwing in AAA in France, throwing them into that group. I mean, to me, the big problem is mid-season when you want a guy for like a week or two, you don't want to waste a young kid. You want to give those young kids like, continuous run. And so, bring up a 28, 29-year-old, then who gives a shit? He's up for 2 weeks, he gets rocked or he doesn't get rocked. And I think we have plenty of those arms, a stable of those arms. I'm looking forward to see what Blue Ball has, this spring. And I'm looking, especially we got news that Hader will not start the season in the bullpen, and De Los Santos will not start the season in the bullpen. So there's spots available for some guys.
Murray looked good today. And, as you mentioned, he had good stuff last year when called upon, and, not a ton of appearances, but enough to obviously be, invited to camp and in a position to make the team this year. And we've talked about it. The bullpen is an ebb and flow thing, right? You can't count on more than maybe one or two carryovers from year to year most times with a bullpen. Guys have ups and downs. It's just the way bullpen arms work. Unless you're a high leverage guy who's consistently 99, 97 with a wicked fucking snap of a slider or a breaking pitch, you're a fifth, sixth, seventh inning guy. Those guys are not necessarily a dime a dozen, but there's a lot of them. And guys get hot and they go on runs. And when you're only throwing 50 innings a year, you can sustain that run a little bit longer. So the Astros bullpen has always had a guy that kind of comes out of nowhere and becomes a high leverage guy, right? You look at Caleb Ort, where the fuck did this guy come from? You look at Rafael Montero in the Astros playoff run in World Series in 2022. Dude had no indication prior to that season that he had that in him, and has not come anywhere near that since 2022, Scott. But here we are. The guy had the run of his life and got paid because of it.
And the one guy, I'll tell you what, the one position player that I'm excited to see, and I'm kind of labeled this, we talked about labeling this segment under construction, because I think there's, some construction issues, because I'm not even going to go with the elephant in the room. Zach Cole has got to play somewhere. He's got to get regular at-bats. I don't know if you saw the exit velos on his batted balls from the last game. He had all four over 100. I mean, this guy's hitting the ball hard. This guy drew, was it 2 or 3 walks in the opener with 3 stolen bases? This guy, and there's going to be a lot of swing and miss, and they were talking about this on the air on one, I think 97.5, that a lot of Dana Brown's prospects have swing and miss issues. Like you look, Bryce Matthews, swing and miss issues, Wickham, swing and miss issues, Zach Cole, swing and miss issues. But all, with the exception of Wickham, all of them have athleticism coming out of their ears. So, you just want to give them an opportunity to play somewhere, to see what they got.
No, I tend to agree with you, especially with Cole. Um, Matthews probably needs to play a lot too. Like if Matthews isn't starting every day, I don't see a world where he needs to be on this team, right? Like God forbid something happens, Jake Myers is either traded or something happens there, and now Bryce Matthews is a starting center fielder. Okay, that's a scenario where that could happen. But outside of that, I don't think we need him on this team right now. He's still pretty young, should be getting every day at bats. And as we've talked about, we have a glut of infielders. They're trying to teach him to play the outfield because we have so many infielders. I just don't see a path for him there. So I tend to agree with you on that front. I think these guys need to play and they need to mash. And Matthews has never had like a crap ton of success. He's had minimal success, but like not at the major league level. He had 1 good game, 2 good games. In the minor leagues, he was 285, 290, nothing special. He's never really mashed. Like let these guys mash. And with Cole, I see some Bellinger in him, if that's not crazy to say. That guy should probably be one of your starting outfield spots going into the season based on what we've seen, right? Like you've got a guy who can hit 25, 30 bombs in the major leagues this year, potentially.
Hey, and a mini hat tip to Nick the Stick Allen. He's gotten 3 hits so far this spring. I didn't think he'd have 3 hits by May. Um, so
He still might not, so let's not
well,
go there,
he's
Scott.
got 3 in March, so not even March. What do you get?
I'm kind of like I'm thinking of like the guy on the range who hits like 4 or 5 good ones in a row before a round and has to just, hey, you only get so many good ones a day. I gotta
Yeah,
let's pack it up.
yeah. Don't waste all your putts on the putting green.
But no, and you talk about under construction, and I still think there's room to be made on this roster, but it's got to be room in the minds of the people running it. I sent you a video earlier that was talking. It was a national baseball account on YouTube that referenced a crawfish boxes article that basically quoted what I've been saying for God knows how fucking long, that Jose Altuve is a better DH than anybody else on this team because he actually hits better as a DH. Jordan Alvarez's numbers show he's a better hitter when he plays the field. Paredes' numbers show he's a better hitter when he plays the field. Everybody else's numbers show they're better hitters when they play the field, except Jose Altuve. And then on top of that, Jose Altuve is a net negative defensively. So, Scott, you would think that the Astros would say, all right, we're going into the season. We're going to DH Jose Altuve. It gives the best chance offensively to get all 9 of our best bats in the lineup. And we still don't seem to have that thought process inside the Astros clubhouse. Everybody outside the Astros clubhouse is saying this, right? There's YouTube, national pundits, whatever. Let Paredes play second. Let's do that. Like, there's got to be a way or let Paredes play left field. Like, there's got to be a way to get the best 9 bats in the lineup. And it seems like we're not doing this the smart way.
Yeah, and I told you we got a mini season ticket plan. We got 10 games. Our first tickets is the second game of the season against the Cardinals. If Paredes is not in the lineup, that's just going to be a huge disappointment. I'll say this, what, almost with Altuve in that situation, it almost reminds me. Remember when A-Rod goes to the Yankees?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, obviously he's playing third base. And it's like, why? Why obviously? Because, A-Rod was, 3 times the defensive shortstop that Derek Jeter was. I mean, Derek Jeter was barely playable, kind of like Altuve defensively, but everybody's like, Derek Jeter's the captain. Come on, it's obvious. He's got to play. And I feel like we're in that scenario right now. And I think the most obvious scenario is probably going to end up being Jordan in left and Paredes at DH, I think was going to end up happening. But I cannot take credit for putting in the numbers of what they've specifically done as a DH. I've talked about the situation, so I don't know if I didn't listen to the full video, so I don't know if he was referencing one of my articles per se. But, I mean, you got to consider that. If Jordan says, hey, I hit better in the field, don't you have to consider that?
I mean, the man is asking to play left field, right? He's publicly come out and said, none of my injuries ever happened because of playing the outfield, right? Like, I want to be engaged. I want to be a part of the game.
He's got hand problems. That's what it amounts to.
You can't tell me that Jordan Alvarez is a worse left fielder than Jose Altuve was last year.
Oh God, no.
You were willing to run Jose fucking Altuve out in left field to get as many bats as you can in the lineup, right? And you can't tell me that Jordan would be worse than Jose because he would be a passable left fielder. Like, would he be a Gold Glover? No. Do I need him to be a Gold Glover? No. I need him to be a fucking passable left fielder. Fuck it. If you can't get there, hold your glove up like you're going to get there. So maybe they pause a little bit. That's all I'm asking for.
Well, and I think the big problem is again, we were joking in our last episode about, Dana Brown and Joe Espada, not talking baseball, apparently, when they have their conversations. Because to me, this is a situation where it's like, you have to be, your manager and general manager need to be aligned on this, on, how are we going to get these guys into the lineup? Because I think what's happened is, I can't say this for certain, but I think Dana Brown's has gotten offers for Paredes. But he obviously didn't think they made us a better team than we are with Paredes on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair opinion if your manager is on board with getting that guy in the lineup on a regular basis. And I'm sorry, I mentioned in a text, I don't want to Dubon him. I don't want him. We'll play him at third today. We'll play him at second tomorrow. We'll play him at first. Play him in left. We'll DH him. I don't think you take your third best hitter and yo-yo him like that. I think the best thing you can do is you sit there and you make a commitment. Okay, here's what we're doing on most nights. If it's him at second base, great. It's him at second base. If it's him at DH, great. It's him at DH. If it's him even in left field, if you wanted to try that, or, then that's what you're doing.
If you're
But-
that worried about Jordan, then he could. You telling me Paredes can't play left field in Minute Maid Park? It's fucking not hard. I
Well,
can play left field at Minute Maid Park.
the only thing that worries me about Paredes is his hamstrings have given him problems. The hamstrings for Paredes are kind of like Jordan's hands.
Then
It's
DH
like
him.
it's a recurring thing. So if Joe Espada were to come out and sit there and say, "Hey, I'm going to DH him because I think that'll keep him healthier," I'd be like, "Okay, I could, all right." But to me, you cannot have a lineup consistently that has Paredes out of it or Altuve out of it or Yardan out of it. You can't do that. Or Walker out of it, quite frankly, because to me, are you going to tell me that you think that Zach Cole is a better offensive player than Christian Walker?
No, I mean you can't say that now. Just
I mean, if
because we
it
don't.
turns out to be the case,
Yeah,
like the opening day lineup right now, according to Fangraphs, has Loperfido and Cole in the lineup and Paredes out of it.
That's
I mean,
ridiculous.
that's insane. If you can't tell me Loperfido is a better offensive player than any of those other guys we're talking about.
No, and you may have gotten Loperfido to be in your mind an option as a left fielder. That's fine. And again, not the opening day roster, not every day. If he's playing every day, it's probably going to be in right, and it's probably because he's on a heater, right? Like at the end of the day, I'm not high on Jake Myers. You and I both know that. If there's a chance to move Jake Myers, you end up with like Cole and a combo of Cam Smith and Loperfido playing right field. I'm like, if those three are playing center and right every day, and then we figure out left field is either Jordan or Paredes, or fuck it, if we have to go back to Altuve in left field, whatever it is, I agree with you. Settle in, right? Like we had way too many lineups last year. I think part of the problem with a guy like Dubon, Scott, is like you kind of get overused to just being like, who needs a day off? Oh, you okay, Doobie, second base, right? Like
Well,
it became too much of a crutch because Dubon's such a good player and you wanted him in the lineup. You wanted to make sure everybody got equal days off and all this other bullshit. And then it just wasn't enough at bats to go around. It wasn't enough opportunity. And Dubon is playing way too much, and Altuve's not playing enough, and guys are just never getting in rhythm. The whole season, they never got in rhythm. And then, quite frankly, sorry to keep going, you see the comments that are coming out from the Blue Jays today based on, the Astros coaching of Jesus Sanchez and what they're trying to do with him. They didn't ever get guys in rhythm. They didn't ever coach guys to their strengths the way the pitching staff is coached to their strengths. Like we literally will look at a pitcher and say, hey, that changeup's fucking dog shit. Stop throwing it. And then all of a sudden, like guy goes from a 4.5 ERA to a 2.5, and then you stop throwing the changeup. Or the other way around, like, hey, you've got a great slider. You don't throw it enough, throw it more. Okay, boom. With the Astros hitting coach, it's like you got some great power on the inside, but I really think you should try and lean out over the plate and go the other way more. That's something we should focus on. I understand that you'd like to pull, but and I know you've hit like 300 home runs in your career pulling the ball in the right field as a lefty, but have you ever thought about just being like a slap hitter down the line? No one does that anymore. No one just each rows it. You should maybe try that.
Yeah, that sounds like Harry the Hat Walker. Apparently, he was trying to turn Jimmy Wynn into a single hitter, and you're just like, what the what the fuck are you doing? But no, I think in the early going, if we're gonna say a positive for this offense, they've drawn a ton of walks. Now, I don't know, obviously, who's pitching on the other side. How good are these guys? Okay, yeah,
The Mets look like shit, but they did draw a lot of walks against the Mets.
but the actuary tables say this, right? You have Jordan, who's injury prone. You've got Jake Myers, who's injury prone. You have Altuve, who's in his mid-30s. You have Carlos Correa, who's approaching his mid-30s. And you have Christian Walker, who is also in his mid-30s. And you have Paredes, who perennially has hamstring issues. What are the odds that all of them get through a season healthy?
Pretty slim.
So to me, having that extra guy, it looks like shit now because you're like, oh shit, how do we figure this out? I just, to me, Joe Espada is in the last year of his contract. He's got no juice, but he's got to manage his ass off. I mean, this is on him to figure out how do we keep everybody healthy. And this was something Dusty was great at. Dusty was great at, managing personalities and keeping kind of everybody happy, even when maybe they weren't playing every day. And he kind of did that jumble thing. And I think Espada's trying to do the same thing. And the problem is that he doesn't have that affable personality that, the pelts on the wall, that grandfatherly, kind of put my arm around your shoulder, kind of, game that Dusty had going.
I agree with you. And it's kind of unfair to Espada because I don't think he's done necessarily anything terribly wrong, right? Like you look at his 2 seasons under the helm, you win the AL West, and then get knocked out in the first round, and then last year you had just a record amount of injuries. You still have a winning season. You put together some good baseball regardless, and just ended up missing out. But sometimes you just aren't the best fit, right? Like I don't know. I'm not sure that's the case here. I don't want to say that early and jinx anything, but he's done nothing wrong, right? He just hasn't found that fifth gear, right? Like I feel like he's going down 45. He's still in fourth gear, and it's time to shift to fifth, right? And just fucking start taking off and do 80 like everybody else. But he's sitting there doing 60 and fourth because he just doesn't want to get in an accident. He doesn't want to wreck the ship. He doesn't want the car. He doesn't want to take that big step, right? But sometimes you got to throw it in a fucking fifth gear and just take off. It's Houston, right? We drive crazy. I literally was passed by a bus full of nuns being driven by a nun, and I was doing 85 miles an hour, Scott, and I was passed by nuns. Fucking throw it into fifth and let's go.
Yeah.
The nun story is true. I swear to God.
You want me to tell you a funny story here? You remember the retreats we used to do at Kickapoo?
I do.
So you remember Amy?
I do. I literally was just on her Facebook page the other day wondering whatever happened to her.
Well, yeah, she and Cesar moved to, I think, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
She was coming up to Kickapoo, and she was by herself. And she was taking the host because we were doing adoration. So she went in the HOV lane. Says, I have a passenger.
That's bold.
She got pulled over. So I have a passenger. It's right here. But I love that story. But I think with Espada, I think he's a nice enough guy. And I'm hoping that if this doesn't work out for him, he gets another opportunity because he's the guy we picked. If you go back into the annals of this show or the show before it, he's the guy that we wanted. I mean, and heck, if you listen to the promo, we're extolling him and his work as a defensive coach.
I think you and I both wanted Espada before Dusty Baker was hired. I think you and I both thought it would be a continuation of the AJ Hinch era a little bit more.
Yeah, no, and the thing is I think his problem as a manager, I think, is he hasn't really forged his own style yet. And so he's too tied into, oh, I want to do things the way Dusty did them, which, Dusty's a Hall of Fame manager. I don't think there's going to be any doubt about that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame as a manager. But Dusty had his issues that we talked about at length. You were talking about Lance McCullers Jr. I blame Dusty for a part of that.
Yeah.
Pitching him on short rest in the playoffs. He's never been the same since then. So, when he was hired, the first thing I said,
I don't remember. No.
my arm hurts.
No, he definitely rides guys. You're not wrong.
He was doing that with
Yeah.
his bullpen. He had that. He was riding guys like Montero and of course, then he abandoned guys like who was the guy that didn't pitch at all in the playoffs? That pitched like regularly in the. He went to the Mets. I can't remember.
Stanek?
Yeah, Stanek. And like all of a sudden in the playoffs, he's like, no, you're not going in. Of course, it worked, but it's still weird.
Yeah, I think Stanek like had a higher walk rate. And
Yeah.
he had his reasonings, right? He always did. And I think at the time, you and I both I didn't love the Dusty hire at the time, but like I got it. And I think it worked out as probably as best as it could have, minus maybe winning, more World Series, right? Like I feel like the one against the Rangers in 23 and that ALCS is gonna forever suck. And the Braves one is gonna forever suck. But you can't win every World Series you're in. And at the end of the day, he did a great job. But to get back to Spada, right? Like he's worked with two great managers now, right? It's not just Dusty. He worked with AJ Hinch too, who's another World Series manager who went to, some ALCSs of his own and two World Series of his own. So I also think that Espada, he has two different guys to draw from, and he has, some serious bench coach experience to draw from. But I just don't know, as you said, if he has his own style, if he's found a way to mend those things together, if he truly, does he let the players kind of dictate a little bit too much when you've got a guy like Jose Altuve, you've got a guy like Carlos Correa, who's really ruling the roost there at the end of the day. And with Dusty, you couldn't tell him no. No one could tell Dusty no. But with Joe Espada, I'm not saying they're telling him no, but I'm saying, hey, they might control it a little bit more. Like if we're not considering moving Altuve off second base because we respect Jose Altuve too much, that's not okay. Like I respect Jose Altuve more than anyone. I love that man, and in many many ways. But it doesn't mean I'm not willing to walk into the clubhouse and say, Jose, I think the way that you're going to be best able to help this team going forward is as a designated hitter. I think second base is probably past your time at this point. But for you to play the length of this contract to be worth every bit of it as an offensive threat, I think DH is probably the way to go. Let's do it.
Well, and that's where I brought up the Jeter situation, because I think this team is kind of similar to that team and the Yankees team, because, look how many structural issues that team had after, they win in the early 2000s. So Bernie Williams, one of the worst defensive center fielders in baseball history. Jorge Posada, one of the worst defensive catchers in baseball history. Jeter, probably the worst defensive shortstop in the Hall of Fame. And Jason Giambi, one of the worst defensive first basemen. And you have a situation where you bring in a guy like A-Rod, and instead of moving Jeter, you defer to him. And so you have a ship that just kind of edging down. And that's where I think is happening with Houston, is that we're tapering. And that's where I brought up guys like Cole, because to me, Jake Myers is fine, but Cole has the potential to be better than fine.
Yeah.
We talked about, Cam Smith obviously has potential to be better than fine. I don't know if Loperfido has that high of a ceiling, to be honest with you. I think he's a fourth or fifth outfielder, utility guy.
If you want to go with the early 2000s, not Yankees references, like, he's your Ruben Sierra if I may, out
Oh,
there. Not a terrible ball player. He hits you 260 with 15 or so homers. If you need him to play, he'll give you a good at bat. But he's not who you really want out there.
yeah, he's late. He's late career Tim Raines, late career Ruben Sierra, those kinds of guys. He's not prime Raines or prime, but I think, and that's where this team, and I think like when you're going to have Nick Allen, who's going to be okay, but does Bryce Matthews have a higher ceiling? Does Kevin Biggio make you a better team than Nick Allen? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't know if you saw his.
Probably.
Because to me, if you saw, he has absolute elite pitch recognition skills. Like we're talking Juan
Elite what
Soto
skill?
pitch recognition. Like he does not chase. He has Juan Soto chase rates. And so, I mean,
And he can play all the positions Allen can. And let's be honest, Allen is not a good hitter, right? At the end of the
no,
day, Allen is dog shit hitter. So if we're looking for a utility man,
I don't know if he
number
can play
one,
short, but he can play every other position.
I think he played some short with the Blue Jays, if I remember correctly, but everybody was like, what the fuck are we doing? Bichette should be at short and Biggio should be at second. In a pinch, I think he could, but he also can play some outfield. He can play first base. He played that with the Dodgers. I personally, but again, let's be honest, Scott. If this guy's name was Kevin Jackson, would we be having this conversation? I don't know. But
Well,
like because his name's Biggio and he can do all these things versus the guy who also can do all these things, you both hit 200. Give me the Biggio kid.
yeah, I probably wouldn't, but you probably wouldn't be in Houston otherwise. I mean, but I think now that he's here, when you're looking at the numbers, it's like, because there are guys like there's levels of guys. So like, what's a Shea Whitcomb at this point? I mean,
Shea Whitcomb could probably be a guy who plays 140 games on the Colorado Rockies or Pittsburgh Pirates or I don't know that he could probably get some serious playing time up in Anaheim. To me, like no offense to Shea, but you are a prospect who had his chance, kind of floundered, and I feel like other prospects have jumped you at this point at positions that are already crowded.
I'm going to go with a infield version of Crash Davis. I mean, he might hit 200 plus minor league home runs.
Possibly. I mean, but you're telling me if he got traded to Pittsburgh, he couldn't play 130 games?
They're better. Pittsburgh's actually looking better than what
if he gets traded to the Angels,
Rockies, I think Rockies,
the Angels, the Rockies. There's teams out there that he would be a starting infielder for just based on the fact that he would start for the White Sox for sure.
Maybe the Cardinals as they're currently comprised.
Yeah. I mean, Shea Whitcomb's not a bad baseball player, but he's also now 27, 28 years old and you haven't established yourself yet. And Bryce Matthews is younger. And again, you've got guys who are signed long term who make big money at the positions that you play. You're an infielder, right? And you've got Carlos Correa at third, Jeremy Pena at short, Jose Altuve at second, and Paredes somewhere else in there as well. And you're Shea Whitcomb.
Yeah.
Trade him for a fucking middling arm at this point, just for Shea's advantage, right? Let the guy go try and be a Major League Baseball player somewhere.
Yeah. All right, Tim. Is it that time?
We could do that time. I know you're itching for it, Scott. Let's start with Powell, right in the kisser. Scott, who are you punching this week?
We did not talk him. We did not talk Rockets in this episode. That's kind of on us. So I'm going to bring him up in this. I'm ready to punch Rafael Stone right in the throat. Okay, so when was the trade deadline, Tim?
Is it around like Valentine's?
I think so. That sounds right.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute now that I have to think about it.
And it's been a minute. And where's the veteran guys from the buyout market?
In their new homes, respectively.
I mean, I haven't seen anything. Well, still got Spencer Dinwiddie out there. Yeah, I guess you could bring him in, but
Who said he wants to be here too, by the way.
but this is what kills me, Tim, is that what would it hurt at this point? What would it hurt? You're not giving away any assets, so you send down J.C. Davidson. So Aaron Holiday has to turn into Milton and give up his locker. He took my locker. He took my stapler. A Kogi took my last sandwich. I'm going to burn down Jim. But in all seriousness, what are we doing? We know what this team needs. This team blew another 10-plus point lead in New York because in the fourth quarter, they just don't have a guy that can, consistently beat pressure, consistently get the ball in the hands of people, where they need the ball. I mean, I have no doubt Durant's a good passer. I think Opley's a good passer. Amen's a good passer. They're good passers, Tim, but they're not point guards. So, what are we doing? And I mean, and sit there and go like, well, I guess it's not our year, so I'm just not going to fucking do anything. If you don't want to trade Tari Eason for, a decent backup point guard, I get it if you like Tari that much. But we're talking about the buyout market here, Tim. Just sign somebody. What's the worst that can happen? He sucks and you cut him? I mean, is that the worst that can happen?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's insane at this point that we've done nothing, and especially with some of the comments he's made of like it's not a year, guys. Just wait till next year. Like you've got aging assets. You made a big bet on a guy who's in his mid-30s, right? And like many Houston stars right now in their mid-30s. I also am in my mid-30s. I can't imagine playing 82 fucking basketball games in a year, Scott. I got sore from when I'd play the last 10 minutes of scrimmage against my daughter's basketball team during practice. So I can't imagine playing 30 minutes a night 80 fucking times a year. So these guys do it professionally. Great for them. But you're relying on that. You're relying on that to continue at 37 and 38 years old and just saying, hey, this is kind of like a trial year. It's like a startup company. We're going to burn through a lot of cash early on. We're going to get, fucking vibes going. We're going to have a ping pong table. The break room's going to have a coffee machine. We're going to have beer lunches. We're going to go public. It'll be great. And then we will make money. Like that's to me what it sounds like right now.
Well, you remember that Whoopi Goldberg movie where she became the coach? What was it, Eddie?
Yeah.
And you had that really, that stupid guy that kept referring to himself in the third person that, finally she benched. And you brought in the old guy who was an NBA player, I think. I can't remember who played him. You had some NBA players because you had Rick Fox in that movie as well. But I feel like Jeff Green is that guy. He's the old guy on the bench. He's what 43, 46. I mean, I think he's
52.
I think he's younger. Well, I'm 52, Tim. He's younger than I am. He has to be. But I feel like he's that Haslam, with the Heat. He's that guy that we're just going to keep bringing back. And
just time to a coaching spot at this point.
I mean, so we're tying up roster spots for guys who are never really going to play meaningful minutes. So it's not going to hurt you to bring in a guy. Okay, Spencer Dinwiddie, he's playing in Europe, I think. So is he up to NBA snuff? I don't know. But see, this funny thing is, Tim, if you sign him now and you give him like a solid month to get in NBA shape, you still haven't hit the playoffs yet.
No, for sure. But he's in game shape at least. Like NBA shape is I don't know how much different than game shape. He's playing games, so it would be better than anything that we're doing right now. Because Amen, I had a Rocket segment plan. We kind of just talked so much Astros we didn't get there. Amen's been bad in February. He's averaging 12 points a game. He's shooting like 20% from three. He's legitimately getting the Russell Westbrook treatment where they're like, fucking, I dare you to shoot that. Please shoot the three, Amen. Otherwise, I get to give you like a 6-foot cushion where I can like handle your drive a lot better. They don't respect his outside game at all. He is unplayable at times offensively. I love Amen Thompson's defense. I love what he does in transition. I think he is going to be a good player, but I think betting the future on this guy is gone. He's not going to just learn how to shoot the basketball. We've talked about this. We were maybe a little bit worried about this. It hasn't gotten any better. He can't fucking shoot, Scott. The man cannot shoot the fucking ball at all. So, still just committing to this roster. The Rockets have lacked shooting for years, right? And Reed went off tonight. Good for him. He's still not a point guard. Like, at the end of the day, Reed Shepard is still not a point guard, and we still lack a point guard. We've said it on this show for God knows how long. I'm with you.
All right, Tim, who you got?
I want to punch Diego Pavia in the face. I really do. First of all, his face is just fucking punchable. Like, we can all agree. How do you not want to fucking punch that guy? He goes on the Heisman rant that he goes on after he didn't win. Obviously doesn't help the draft stock, right? Then he goes on Johnny Manziel's podcast this week, which what the fuck are we listening to? Why does Johnny Manziel have an opinion that we want to hear? That's a whole other scenario. And he makes a $10,000 bet with Johnny Manziel that he's going to run a faster 40 at the combine than Johnny Manziel ran at his 40. Scott, how many people just got like arrested for sports betting and gambling and probed and all that other shit, right? Like, do we really think that before your biggest job interview of your entire life, going out there and betting on your 40 time pretty publicly is maybe a good look as these NFL GMs are like, hey man, gambling's become a bit of an issue in the NFL and other these areas. How do you handle that aspect of your life to make sure that you don't gamble? Oh, I fucking gamble. What are you talking about, bro? Like, really, like, what are you gonna say? What do you like? There's fucking quotable evidence of you saying, "I bet $10,000 I'll run faster than you."
Well, remember when we did that? We done that rabbit hole of like the worst possible choices for coaches, and
Yes.
you mentioned
do we want to do a worst possible NFL interview for a quarterback? Because I'm happy to do that with you right now.
Well, you did the interpreter, that Otani's interpreter, being like a support group, a gambling support group, charge, and coming out and going, I'm the one that came out. All right, I got the over under at 2.5 of you are going to relapse. All right, who's in on that action?
I'm at this point, if you told me that Pavia had bet on where he's going to be drafted in the draft, I wouldn't fucking be right. I'd be surprised at that either. Like, he's fucking got to be on Kelsey. Just like, he's going to go hot, plus or minus the 4th round. Ooh, I'm in on those odds. I'm going to talk so much shit and make myself drop. Like, let's go. Like, it's insane, Scott. Like, this guy is, he was a good college football player. Like, we can agree. We can all agree. Like, he did some good things in college. And you may have had a chance to be a guy who stuck around on an NFL roster as a backup, like a Case Keenum for a long time. If you went in and you did the work and you shut the fuck up and you played well and you shut the fuck up and you don't draw attention to the team because you're the goddamn fucking backup, and you could probably make, I don't know, Case Keenum money, which is damn near $75 million in his career as a backup in the NFL, if you would just shut the fuck up. But instead, you're not doing that. And here we are. We're not even at draft day yet. And you're basically just every time you open your mouth, like, that's another million. No, that's another million. Like, what the fuck, man?
But maybe he wins out. Maybe he's got good odds on that. So maybe he recruits it back. All right, Tim, I'm going to switch the order up because I think that my horse's ass is going to piggyback on yours. So
all right, Scott. Well, then let's do a little award giving for horses' asses as I take the graphic off the screen. Go to my notes here as I sent them to you earlier. I'm going Nick Caserio. That's right. I saw this interview he gave earlier this week where he basically said, I don't know why everyone's talking about the state of our O-line. I think this is the best O-line we've had in my time here. And I watch tape and I'm really impressed. I wonder if I'm watching different tape than what you guys are watching, because I'm really excited with what I see. And it's just like, maybe you are watching different tape, Nick, because what I see is a line that got better. Yes. but I saw definitely like weak areas in the line. And I saw outside of like our tackles, we really weren't very good. And I saw that Jake Andrews was not a starting level NFL center. And I saw that you had a really good right tackle playing fucking guard all the time because we didn't have a good solution there. And I saw you overpay like a shit ton of random linemen and then cut them fucking right at the start of camp on guaranteed contracts, Nick. So when we judge your offensive line work as a whole, just because you got lucky on Ursay, we can't fucking forgive the Robinson deal that was just lighting $5 million on fire. We cannot forgive, some of the draft picks that you've made that have not panned out. We cannot just look at the fact that this one year you had a line that was average, fucking average, and
That's
and that's stretching it. It was better than it's been in 3 years, but you cannot sit here and act like
it.
I'm the Wizard of Oz and I have this magical land that I've created, and it's all just don't look at the fucking man behind the curtain.
Well, no, here's my favorite part of this interview, other than the one you mentioned, because that was hilarious. I was driving at the time when I heard that, and I had to pull over, because it's kind of, I said, thank God I wasn't drinking, because I would have choked. But my favorite part is before that. I don't know if you heard the clip before that where he sat there and said, "Well, we like to come early to Combine to maximize our interviews, with them, and then when they start working out, then we leave." And it's like, what the fuck? I mean, it's almost like we're doing Bill O'Brien's, tough, smart, and dependable shit. I got a good vibe off this guy. Maybe
I
he's
mean,
slower than shit, but man, he could talk good game, and he really wants to play for us. I want that guy.
maybe it's excusable if they watch it on TV when they get
That's
back.
what he
I
was
don't
saying.
know, but like at the end of the day, it's really not. I don't know why you would put that out there. Like, hey, we got a special direct feed. Say something like, I don't know, like the McNairs are real tight on the travel expenses with the feed that they give us. It's just better to not have those extra hotel days and per diem days. We only get so many. We only get so many travel days, and I got a coaches clinic coming up that I'm really hoping that they write off for me. We have a coaches clinic in Hawaii, and if I could save some of my hotel days
Yeah.
from the combine, then I can move them to my Hawaii days from it. I can get a couple extra days. So the McNairs are lovely people, but they only give me so many corporate hotel days per year.
All right, Tim, to piggyback on that one, mine, and he knows this is coming because I actually talked to him, on the air. Sean Bajani. And so here's why, Tim.
You
My
told him on air that he was going to be the horse's ass on our podcast?
I did not, but I told him
Okay.
I told him basically that, he was pissing me off because here's why he pissed me off, Tim. My Tuesday was slammed. Like I had a full day of work. Then we had like a meeting that night, for youth ministry. So I noticed that we had a beer problem, Tim, at home, in that we only had one beer left. So I had to make a specs run. So I'm listening to a show and he's playing that clip while I'm driving. I could have gotten in a wreck, Tim. I mean, this is what I told him. I said, you gotta make a health alert, before you play that clip, because if somebody's drinking, they could have choked. I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever. And this is what kills me is that does he really honestly believe this is a good offensive line? I seriously doubt it. I think he thinks like, well, I'm gonna play four-dimensional chess, and I'm gonna tell people that we have a great offensive line, so they're gonna think that we're not gonna draft linemen or sign linemen in free agency, and then we'll go and sign linemen in free agency. And everybody knows they got two eyes. They know. I mean, I guess most people had two. Peter Falk only had one, but I'm sure he could even see that this offensive line sucked when he was alive. But that's the problem I have with all the Houston general managers, Dana Brown included, Rafael Stone included. What they choose to tell people, it's like, you need to either go to a class or hire somebody like Temerai to write out statements for you. I can do it. I can tell you some bullshit that's going to sound great and is going to say nothing and is not going to make you sound like an idiot. Hire me, please.
How about this, Scott? Hey, I thought the line showed some bright spots. We were really happy with the way some guys played. Do I think it's perfect? No, absolutely not. I always think we're looking to strive and get better. And anytime we have an opportunity to bring a player in through the draft or free agency that makes us better and in a better position to protect our quarterback and run the football, that's a move that I'm going to highly consider. But am I happy with the way the line played? I do think we made progress.
And that took you how long to come up with, Tim?
Just right now, Scott, just off the top of my head.
I mean, and that sounds like a perfectly plausible response where you're not throwing anybody under the bus. You're not saying our center sucks. You're not saying our guards suck. You're saying like our line got better, which I think objectively it did. We thought that some of the individual players got better, which objectively they did. But if we see opportunities to make our football team better, we're going to take advantage of them. Oh.
Yeah, do you think that every day when Nick Caserio drives into work, he listens to the song that played while Daniel LaRusso was working his way through the All Valley tournament called You're the Best Around? And he's just fucking driving in Houston. Just imagine him. In my mind, Scott, he's got a lifted F-150. Okay. Nick Caserio, he's got a lifted F-150. I think he's probably got a sunroof that's cracked but not open. And I think he got the windows open a little bit. And he's just on Kirby. Nothing's gonna ever keep you down. And then, waving at the attendants as he's coming in. But everybody, that's Nick. He's the best around.
We saw that, they heard the song on South Park first with Ann. So she thought it was a fake song. And then we had her watch Karate Kid. She's like, oh my God, that song's real? So, pretty amazing there. So, yeah, I mean, and I think when you add in, just the whole Joe Mixon talk, to me, it was just so damn daft. I can't believe, I don't understand where that comes from. It's just unbelievable. I was saying when you add in the Joe Mixon talk where we think he had surgery. I mean, really? Is this where we're at? Are you that daft? I just...
No, it's pretty frustrating. And I think Nick's done some good things to rebuild his team. But, I do think he's tone deaf at times to the fan base and to just like how things are going to come off.
All right, Tim. We ready for some positive vibes?
I am, Scott. Let's tip a cap here as I fight Milo off the desk here.
Yeah, I notice you're kind of struggling there. I am tipping TCU basketball. And I am going to make a statement here, Tim, that I'm sure you're going to push back on, but I believe it. Obviously, men's and women's teams are not going to compete directly with each other, and nobody's making an argument. But I think the TCU women's basketball team has had a better season up to this point than the U of H men's basketball team.
We've lost 3 in a row, so I'm not happy right now.
Yeah, we just clinched the regular season conference championship. Have 4 losses on the season, 3 of them in conference, but we just clinched that.
This is the women's, you're saying?
Yeah, the women. Yeah,
okay.
No, the men are. But the men, we are now 8-7 in conference play, Tim. Finishing strong down the stretch. Well, we've got 3 games left. One of them against Tech, that's probably a loss. But we've got 2 winnable games outside of that. So if this team finishes 10-8, they'll finish with 20-11 record in the regular season. You get them a tournament win, just one Big 12 tournament win. I think they sneak into the dance. Last bracket I saw was either them or Ohio State, and I want to say an 11 seed. So, you never know.
No, I think that's a good one. Happy to see that they're playing well, and I recognize good.
Did you see what the TCU women did to the U of H women?
They probably destroyed them. Our UH women's team is fucking terrible.
Beat them by at least 40.
Yeah, it's really frustrating how bad our women's team is compared to the men's team because they just can't get that hire right. They've had so many coaches in the last few years since Kelvin's been hired on the men's side, and they just really haven't gotten any of them right.
All right, Tim, who you got?
I'm gonna tip my top to Tarek Skubal. I think he did a really nice job of call it towing the line of being there for his team as far as the Tigers go, but still wanted to be able to represent Team USA. So he is going to go out and make a start against Great Britain, and then he's going to bow out and let someone else take his place on the roster, and then go get ready for camp. And I think that for many guys, myself included, we're kind of bummed some of the Astros didn't get to play. I think this was a really good way for Tarek to do it. To go in and make that one start. I personally think, especially on a hitting side, if you're going to play and you're going to get regular playing time, I think you come in to the start of the year, more advanced than the guys who are in regular spring training. If you go to the World Baseball Classic on a pitching side, I think it stretches you out a little bit early. So I understand why Scooball's just going to do the one. But again, I commend him for finding a way to do both things, right? Like so many times you're told it's one or the other. And I think for him it was really important to represent his country. And I commend him for finding a way to being able to do that, and yet still, being respectful to his teammates in the chase for the ultimate win, which is the World Series championship.
Well, and obviously the Tigers are the team to beat in the AL Central. I think that's pretty obvious after their offseason. And we've talked about the World Baseball Classic before, and the unfortunate thing is there is not a good time to play it. To me, you can't play it in November. It's too cold, and guys are tired from the season. I don't think you can do what the NBA, and the NHL does, where you just like, okay, we're just going to shut down the season for a month. I don't think you can do that. So, and that's pitchers are it's the unfortunate thing, and so that is a hard line to toe. And that is because to me the unfortunate thing is if you look at the U.S. rotation, him and Paul Skeens, I don't know how you hit. If you had them in mid-season form, would anybody beat the USA?
I mean, it'd certainly be tough if you're getting 7 innings of Scooball and then 7 innings of Paul Skeens. It'd be tough to imagine beating those guys in any kind of scenario, and that's just two. Like, and then the position players are stacked too, right? This is
Oh yeah, I mean
this is one of the more complete. Nah, not everybody.
Well,
there's like 3 or 4 teams that are stacked.
Well,
and then,
okay,
and then
everybody,
the Italies of the world has Zach fucking DeZenzo coming out.
Hey, I don't want any Zach DeZenzo hate on this show.
There's no hate for Zach DeZenzo on this show, but when you compare the rosters of the World Baseball Classic teams, your cousin Scott pitched for Team Italy. Okay, no offense to your cousin, but we've been on his baseball reference page, and he's not exactly making any push up the Baseball Hall of Fame index anytime soon.
No. You're not wrong. But if you looked at teams like, I would say probably, what do you think? Japan, U.S., maybe Puerto Rico, maybe Venezuela,
DR,
the Dominican Republic, maybe Korea. I don't know. I mean that's
fucking Shea Whitcomb's playing for Korea, so I don't know how good they're going to be.
No, but to me, you look at like Japan. I mean, they could throw out a pretty damn good rotation. I mean, Yamamoto and
I mean, it depends how hard they're going to ride Shohei. They rode him pretty hard last time. Hey, maybe that fucks them up for the Dodgers season. I don't know. Fuck the Dodgers. Let's move on, Scott.
Yeah. All right. You tipped your cap. So it's time for the scumbag of the week.
That would be correct.
All right.
Let's get it going, Scott. Who is your scumbag of the week?
I am going, since the saga appears to be over, I am going one Joe Mixon. Because I'm sorry, and we could debate, because you remember when Dusty used to go HIPAA?
Yeah.
And which was hilarious. Our daughter Ann, she wants to take one of our cats with her to college next year because she's going to be in an apartment. And so she's like asking me when she got her shots. I'm like, I don't know. And why don't you just call the vet? Let them tell you. Doesn't she have HIPAA rights? I'm like, no, cats do not have HIPAA rights. That's not a thing. But yeah, Dusty used to do HIPAA. So to me, I put this on Joe Mixon. If Nick Caserio and the Texans were going to refuse to go into full disclosure on what was going on with Joe Mixon, that's fine. And if Joe Mixon wants to be mum, that's also fine. But don't come out like with 2 or 3 weeks left in the season when somebody says you're not playing for the whole year and go like, well, hey, somebody doesn't know the facts, and then introduce zero facts. Like if you had come out and sit there and said like, listen, I was working out and my foot fell off. And so we put on a prosthetic and we're petitioning the league to let me play with one of those. Like, do you think like, like the para games where they have like the people running track with the blades? Do you think they would allow a running back with a blade in the NFL?
That'd be kind of cool.
I mean, maybe if it's a smaller one. I think that could work. But to me, if you're going to come out and sit there and complain about people not having the facts, you got to give us the facts then. You got to come out and say like, hey, this is what happened. I was working out, something happened. I had these anal fissures and had a surgery, and shit. Well, shit. Obviously, more ways than one. You can sit there and say like, man, I had a colonoscopy because, you're getting older, you're getting up there in your upper 20s and early 30s. They say, maybe have a, preemptive colonoscopy. And then they gave me an enema and I lost 30, 40 pounds. I couldn't put it back on. You got to give us something. And I'm not getting mad at him for getting hurt because the way they're making it sound is it's not that he was doing something stupid. It sounded like he was working out and something happened. I don't know how many times, Tim, I've taken a tumble down the stairs before, carrying laundry, can't see the step. Boom, there it goes. Stuff happens, but you got to be upfront and honest about it. If you're going to complain about people not having all the facts.
Nope, couldn't agree more, Scott. I think that's a fantastic choice, and I think that's a great way to go.
All right, who you got, Tim?
I am going to go with the NBA. Scott, the NBA fined the Indiana Pacers for improperly resting players. And you know what's crazy to me? They didn't talk to anyone in the medical staff. At no point did they decide it was worth it to see what the doctors thought about these injuries or, why these players are being rested. They're just like, nope, you're doing this wrong. You're arresting guys at the wrong time. We're gonna have to fine you $100,000. And I understand you have a product that you're trying to protect and you want fans to be able to come out and watch players and all that, but you can't do that without talking to the actual medical staff. You have to actually do the research of why this is being done at the end of the day, Scott. And it's so crazy to me that you would just issue the fine without talking to any on the training staff first. And it's just asinine to me.
Well, and the problem is that you have teams, and I'm going to say we had one at home that did this very clearly. There was a process with the Astros, and they had 3 consecutive number 1 overall picks. And quite clearly, the best you can claim is that they hit on 2 of them, and that's only if you give them credit for Alex Bregman as, a replacement for Brady Aiken. But to me, this is where baseball has now gotten it wrong. The NFL has it right, and I think basketball needs to go back to this. The worst team in the league gets the number 1 overall pick, period. because the problem is now is you got ping pong balls and who's in it, and you got so many situations where you're like, you know, did Dallas get a wink wink deal to get
Yeah.
Cooper Flag? And then there's that conspiracy theory. So if you want to prevent, like the Rockets did back in the day, which is why the lottery exists in the first place, where they went Ralph Sampson, Hakeem Olajuwon back-to-back years. If you want to prevent that, all you have to do is put in a rule that stipulates you can't have the number one overall pick in back-to-back seasons. That's a simple rule. Or you can't have it more than 2 years in a row, or whatever you want to do. But it's silly. Teams have been tanking for years. And here's the thing, Tim. How many teams does it really honestly work for?
Not many, right? Like the Sixers got a ton of picks, and at the end of the day, Embiid's the only one that
Yeah,
really
Ben
truly worked
Simmons.
out for.
Ooh. They got Fultz, I think, was one of their picks, I think, and it didn't end up being. But think about teams like I think your bigger problems is instead of focusing on individual, tanking, let's look at situations where you've got like the Clippers before Ballmer took over, where you were, almost dead last every, for 20 consecutive seasons and you never fired your GM. Like, what are we doing at that point? Right. But you look at teams right now. When was the last time the New Orleans Pelicans were good?
Like when Amir Ashik was there,
When was the last time the Wizards were good?
when John Wall and Bradley Beal were there.
Like, what about the Kings? When Vlade Divac
Yeah,
was,
when Chris Webber and Vlade Divac and them were there.
I mean, we're talking about teams that have got like a solid decade of suck. What are we doing? To me, this is where you got to start looking at. Charlotte's another good example. Feel sorry for Michael Jordan, but he's a horrible owner. So, what are we doing? What are we doing about teams that suck year after year after year? And I'm sorry to say it, in the NFL, what are you doing about the Jets? I mean, to me, it's an embarrassment for a team. Cleveland Browns is another good example. It's an embarrassment for teams just to be bad year after year after year. That's not one game. Who gives a shit about one game? To me, if you're, I don't even think it needs to be relegation. What I think it needs to be is your ass is selling. If you can't produce a winning team in a 5-year period, sell your team to somebody who wants it.
No, I tend to agree with you. Like, if you're bad because of more than just you don't have good players, right? Like typically there's institutional rot. All the teams that you named have sucked for a long time, probably because it comes from the top all the way down. And an owner who doesn't know what he's doing, a GM who's in over his head. You look at some of these guys like Vlade Divac was the fucking GM of the Kings at one point. What the fuck is Vlade Divac doing? Like, why? Luke Walton hired as the coach of the Kings, right? Like,
Unfilled.
it's bad decision after bad decision. When you look at the Browns coaching decisions, they went and hired a baseball stats guy to run their front office, and then were shocked when it didn't go well for them. There's bad decisions all around, and they continue to compound and boom, and it blows up in your face, and then it all starts over again, and bad decision, and then we hire a new coach, it starts over, and it's just bad teams stay bad for a reason. So I tend to agree with you. The lottery and the NBA doesn't change anything. You look at the teams that are in the lottery, they're in the lottery a lot. Very rarely do teams win the lottery, get the number one overall pick, and it solves their entire fucking problem, right? Like the Spurs were a rare example of that because David Robinson was hurt. You get Tim Duncan. Now, next thing you know, you got Tim Duncan and David Robinson next to each other. Like, oh my God, it's amazing.
And then you get Wembanyama.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't happen all the time. The Rockets struck gold with Yao, and it projected them. But how often are the Kings in the lottery? How often are the Hawks in the lottery? How often, are the Wizards in the lottery? How often are the Bucks in the lottery before they got Giannis, right? Like, there are very few, and even then, Giannis was not a lottery pick. He was a late first round pick. So, the Knicks were in the lottery for fucking 15 straight years after Patrick Ewing left. It doesn't just, sucking for a year doesn't just get you the one. People wanted the Texans to suck for Reggie Bush. Like, Reggie Bush wouldn't have changed the foundation of the Houston Texans. People wanted to lose to go get the guy who's in New Orleans, the big motherfucker from Duke.
Zion Williamson.
Zion. Like, people thought Zion was going to change. Zion wouldn't change. Like, hasn't changed any franchise. You could have put him anywhere. It doesn't matter, right? Like, he doesn't fucking stay in shape. Like, it is. You're still rolling the dice on a 19 to 20-year-old kid most of the time with the number 1 overall pick. You have no idea what the fuck's going to happen. Jason Tatum didn't go number 1 overall. He's changed the franchise. Markelle Fultz went number 1 overall and forgot how to fucking shoot. So it's a roll of the dice. I agree with you. The lottery's stupid.
Yeah, and so I just bad teams just kind of piss me off. All right, do we have a special comment for tonight?
I don't think I have one tonight, Scott.
I'm good saving that. Although I do want to throw a minor scumbag. You remember my Lenten promise?
I do.
So Janet had on the State of the Union last night.
I don't know why, but
just trolling me at that point.
Not nice on her part, but Scott, I agree with you. That's a scumbag move. That's a minor one, but still a scumbag move.
All right, Tim. Next week, hopefully, Spencer Dinwiddie, who may be in Houston, who knows? Maybe never. Whatever.
Bob Sura coming out of retirement, folks. You heard it here first.
Scott Brooks, not going to be a coach, going to be a point guard again.
Aaron Brooks is back.
Actually.
Scott, no. No, Scott, no. That's going to do it for us here, folks. We appreciate everybody who joined us this week on board on the Bayou Sports.